Between 1923 and 1936, there was one man the boxing world couldn't ignore. His was Jack Kid Berg. In those years, he fought like a machine. 192 fights, 157 victories, and 57 men knocked cold by his fists. But Berg wanted more than just wins. He wanted the world. So in 1931, he packed his gloves and crossed the ocean to America, the land where legends were made. Over there, he fought 76 times and won 64. Under the sharp eyes of the great trainer Ray Arcel, Berg became a strong and smart fighter. And then came the night that changed everything. In 1930, inside a roaring arena in London, Berg faced the American champion Mushy Callahan. The crowd could feel the tension in the air. One hard punch later, Callahan hit the canvas. Berg stood tall, the new world light welterweight champion. But the world of boxing is never simple. Some organizations refused to recognize his title. They said it didn't count. Berg didn't argue. He just kept fighting. When he later defeated Goldie Hess, every doubt disappeared. He was finally crowned the true champion. And before that, he even shocked the world by beating the famous Kid Chocolate, a Cuban star everyone thought was untouchable. From London to New York, from cheers to bruises, Berg's journey wasn't a smooth one. It was about proving that no matter where you come from, if you fight hard enough, the world will know your name. He walked into the ring that night in Chicago, April 1931, ready to defend everything he'd worked for. And across the ring stood Tony Canzoneri, a hungry fighter with fists that could crush any opponent in seconds. The bell rang. 3 rounds later, Berg hit the canvas. Face first. He tried to stand, stumbled, then fell into the ropes. The crowd went silent. Just like that, his title was gone. But Berg wasn't ready to accept it. He argued that the loss was at lightweight, not light welterweight. In his heart, he was still champion. But the world had already moved on, and Canzoneri was seen as the true king in the ring. He fought Canzoneri again that same year, and lost once more. But Berg didn't quit. He kept going. In 1934, he rose again, this time taking the British lightweight title after defeating Harry Misler, another proud Jewish fighter. People began to whisper his name again. Hope returned. When Canzoneri got injured, Berg stepped in to replace him against Cleto Locatelli at Madison Square Garden. It was his chance to climb back to the top. But Paris wasn't kind to him. In 1935, Gustave Humery outpointed him. Then again in London, Berg tried and failed. Still, he held his British title tight. Later that year, he flew to Johannesburg to fight for the British Empire crown, and lost again, this time to Laurie Stevens. It seemed like the story was ending. But Berg wasn't done. He moved to America again, fought as a welterweight, and began winning back respect. Then, in 1936, after 3 straight losses, he said goodbye and retired. But Kid Berg couldn't stay away. By January 1937, he was back. His first fight? A clean victory over Ivor Pickens, the start of a 9-fight unbeaten streak. For years later, in 1941, he moved up once more to middleweight. He beat Harry Craster, then Misler again, and even took down Eric Boone after a disqualification for a low blow. Berg had been knocked down more times than anyone could count, but every time the world thought he was finished, he rose again. By 1945, Berg had been fighting for more than 2 decades. He wasn't young anymore, but the fire in him never dimmed. After defeating Eric Dolby that March, reporters asked what was next. Berg smiled and said, "What I need is fights. I'm no good in the gym, but once I'm in that ring, you'll see what I can do. If I'm no good anymore, I'll quit." He meant every word. 2 more fights followed, both brutal, both beautiful. The last one, in May 1945, ended with Berg knocking out Johnny McDonald. And just like that, the man who had fought across continents finally hung up his gloves. Boxing ran in the family. His brother Teddy was also a fighter. In 1941, the two even shared the same fight card, both chasing the same dream under the same lights. When Berg finally stepped out of the ring for good, he didn't fade away. He became a film stuntman, joined the Royal Air Force, and later owned a restaurant in London, serving people instead of punching them. He had lived many lives. A fighter, a brother, a soldier, a showman. But through it all, he was still Berg, the man who refused to stop swinging. In 1930, the newspapers announced his marriage to Eleanor Krauss, a New York University student, daughter of a wealthy silk merchant. It sounded like a dream, but by the next year, it was over. Just like that. That same year, things got messy. A woman named Sophia Levy came forward, claiming Berg had promised to marry her, and sued him for £10,000. The headlines went wild, but life moved fast for Berg. By August 1933, he married again, this time to Buntelli Payne, a dancer from the famous Trocadero. They tied the knot quietly in London, away from the noise. Years later, in 1940, Berg found himself in another kind of fight, this time not in the ring, but in court. A BBC broadcaster, John McAdam, had joked on air that Berg would soon be fighting again after collecting his old age pension. The insult cut deep. Berg took him to court and won. He was awarded £500 for slander. But even that victory didn't last long. The decision was overturned on appeal. It was a reminder that fame comes with cheers and scars. Time passed, but the world never forgot Berg. He had fought his way into history, and years later, the honors came rolling in. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame, then the World Boxing Hall of Fame. And in 1993, something special. He was welcomed into the International Jewish Sports Hall of Fame. Berg wasn't a deeply religious man, but he was proud of who he was. Before fights, he'd step into the ring wearing tefillin, a symbol of his roots, a way to win the crowd's heart before the first punch was even thrown. To the fans, it wasn't just about boxing anymore. It was about spirit, about a man who turned every battle, in the ring and in life, into a story worth remembering. He fought across two worlds, from London to New York, against champions, pain, and time itself. He lost. He rose. He kept going. Even when his hands stopped throwing punches, his story didn't end. Because some fighters don't just fight in the ring, they fight through life. Berg wasn't the biggest. He wasn't the loudest. But he was the kind of man who refused to stay down. And maybe that's what made him special. Not the titles, not the fame, but the heart that kept swinging long after the crowd went home.